Okay, so... oh man, we got some stuff to talk about in this episode. Oh man, so yes, we are getting the after a short hiatus, a short absence, we are finally... Why do I say finally? Peri's back. And we got some interesting... She unleashed some news on us about Homeworld, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And we discover about Peridot's power. And oh boy, I feel bad for all the people who are like, Peridot's gonna summon her own weapon. She kind of found her own power. And it's a cool one. Anyway, so more or less this episode is about Steven, Amethyst, and Peridot going to Funland to more or less just hang out and have fun, and Peridot discover, Peridot at first is not really cool with the idea of stretching or shape-shifting. Also, real quick, Steven's getting good at it. I also love the return of Catfinger. Oh man, that was great. The Catfinger just freaks out. He's like, no, we're not doing this again. I went through that Akira transformation once. I don't want to do that again. And yeah, Peridot is very, she's very shy about it, and we get to see more of Mr. Smiley, who I think might have a new voice actor. I think this might be a new voice actor for Mr. Smiley. Because that didn't sound, to me, that didn't sound like Sinbad, who does the voice, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's him, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but it just sounded a little different to me. I don't know. But yeah, Peridot, throughout this episode, is just not really cool with it, and, cool with the idea of shape-shifting, and she gets her own, an upgrade, kind of. The upgrade being that, she gets a tablet from from Steven, who gives it to her more or less like, look, I don't care about technology, so you can go ahead and have it. And she more or less goes through this, her own version of a Super Sentai transformation that would have made Gokaiger smile. Man, I laugh so much in this episode, but there's some really sweet moments in here, and I love the underlying reliance on too much technology, and it wasn't in your face about it. That was a nice plus to this episode of how, it's not in your face like, oh, too much technology is bad for you. It wasn't bashing you over the head with it. It was more like, hey, come on, put the tablet down once in a while. It won't kill you. Yeah. So anyway, Peridot reveals some interesting information regarding herself, her homeworld, and her as a gem on a whole. Also, real quick before I forget, Onion, that little spawn of Satan, someone needs to put Onion on a leash, because you see him trying to burn down a roller coaster again, and I love when Mr. Smiley's like, no, I haven't all the way paid off the civil lawsuit from last time. So he's done this before. He has, perpetrated this monstrosity's done this twice. Also, I loved when Steven's like, Mr. Smiley's like, I'm glad you find the humor in this, Steven. I haven't slept in 6 straight days. I'm like, good lord, they are really I never realized how understaffed they were in in Beach City. Yeah. Anyway, so let's get into the big thing about this episode, is that Peridot reveals unintentionally that Homeworld is running out of resources. Homeworld is dying. Yeah, Homeworld is quintessentially dying, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. There's the gems that are being made are not as powerful as the first generation. She says she's a Era 2 Peridot, so I'm guessing the Peridots that were made before her actually have powers, and this actually explains why she has limb enhancers. Because she has no powers, but then it begs the question. Well, then again, with Jasper and Lapis, they were clearly part of the war, so I guess they were Generation 1 gems, so that explains why they have powers. But with Peridot, Peridot is... Peridot was, what she thought was quintessentially powerless, and in there, we discover that's why she has the limb enhancers, because she had no powers of her own. Or at least she thought she did. Again, I'll get to that in a moment, but I really want to talk about, Homeworld is dying. it can't make the gems it once could, like jasper, lapis, and even pearl, garnet, and amethyst. Well, amethyst was born on Earth, but yeah, those very powerful gems we've seen before. Yeah, Homeworld is clearly losing military power. It's getting weaker. So I would not be shocked if we see future gems of, let's say like another version of Garnet and others, more or less, their powers are dying. Their powers are fading away and these new gems that we might see in the future are essentially weaker because Homeworld doesn't have the power to give them, the proper abilities. So that was a very interesting insight. And I'm wondering, what the state of Homeworld is now, because remember, Lapis said it changed so much, so maybe, its over-industrialization has just kind of depleted the resources, much like how on Earth we're kind of barreling through resources, aren't we? So it looks like Homeworld, who's been doing this for centuries, is hitting its limit, and I can only imagine when Homeworld runs out of resources, I can only imagine when it does finally, run out of those resources, it's not going to be pretty, because they're probably, the Diamond Authority is going to be looking at Earth like, remember that planet we used to conquer? The one that was supposed to have the cluster on it? Yeah. Let's go again. So who knows? Maybe with, that would maybe this could build up to something later on in this season or into the next season of the gems more or less trying to stop a second Earth invasion because, Homeworld is dead. Homeworld is dying. They need to find a new form of resource and colonize new planets and probably even make a new homeworld try to make a new home out of Earth. And yeah, Steven and the Crystal Gems, even with Peridot, Peridot and Lapis and possibly Bismuth and even Jasper's help, it's a small group compared to the legions they have on Homeworld. And not to mention the overpowered Diamond Authority. So that'll be something to behold. Yeah, that was an interesting that was an interesting insight, and it kind of explains why, when Lapis said, Homeworld's a lot different than it used to be, and it might explain why they keep coming back to Earth. Yeah. So that was, wow, I thought this episode was going to be all fun and shit, but no, Peridot gives us some accidental insight on what's going on in Homeworld. Oh boy. Anyway, so, yeah. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting development in the to see where that goes in the future. But the main thing is that Peridot actually discovers a power inside of her. She actually has magnetism. Yeah, Peridot is Magneto now. I can't wait for all the fan art of, Halloween Peri, of her dressed as Magneto, or hashtag Perinito. There you go. Hashtag Perinito. I don't know why. I always love characters who have magnetism powers. I've loved that with Magneto. I've loved that with any character. I don't know why, because the whole world's made of metal, and it just seems like a logical thing to control, more or less. So yeah, if your character has metal, magnetic powers, then I'm automatically going to like them. Yeah. Anyway, so, I can't wait for all the fan art of Peridot wearing Magneto's helmet and a little version of Magneto's costume. Can't wait for that. That's probably all you've been made as of this recording. Also, Peridot getting her own toy. I shudder to think of all the fan fiction of what Peridot's going to do to that poor thing. I'm already dreading it, and it's going to be out there because it's the internet, and we all know better. Oh no, she's probably going to use that thing as her own sex toy, and that's going to be the fan fiction, isn't it? Where she's going to use that little alien doll, which I'm guessing was a reference to Zim, and there were clearly some Zim references here of her going like yee, like her doing all those noises. Like, yeah, it's very clear that she was based off of Zim. But yeah. all in all, really good episode. But I'm really curious as to, why does Peri have this power and how does she have it? Because she said, I'm not meant to have that. I'm not meant to have powers. Also, what I thought was really cool to see Steven teaching someone to use their powers. I thought that's really cool of how, and it's really cool to see Steven, seeing how far he's come as a character, and seeing him teach someone. He's gone from student to master, more or less, in some cases with Peridot. Anyway, so you guys tell me, what did you guys think of this episode? What did you guys think of the development on, that revelation on Homeworld? And what do you think of Peri Nito or Magadots? That sounds more like Megatron. New powers. Just comment below, let me know. Yeah, really interested to see what you guys have to say about all this. Yeah. And of course, once again, hope you all enjoyed this review, and I will see you guys later.